Hi guys, TinaGale here, and I am back with a process video. Today I'm going to be using my June double shot kit from the scrap room. This is photo play paper Best Dad Ever, and I want to scrapbook a couple of photos from this Father's Day. So proud of myself, scrapbooking something so soon. So this collection, I fell in love with the colors and stuff on it. Since it's part of the double shot kit, we only get 3 pattern papers and then some cardstock. So I was really scrimping and saving and trying to be really creative how I was going to use the pattern paper because I wanted to use a lot of it. I decided to try to do a grid design. This is something I've talked about here recently that I just really struggle with grid designs. They don't set well when I look at them. Even though I'm a very linear person, you would think, grid design, it's just straight lines and all of that. But it just seems a little too boxy. So I wanted to challenge myself to see if I could create something that I would really like, which meant I needed lots of pattern paper, I wanted lots of embellishments, and I didn't want it all completely horizontal and vertical in the lines. So it'd kind of break it up. So right here is one of the ways that I got real creative with the paper. I wanted this frame around this photo. This is my focal photo. It's my husband and my daughter snuggling up to him. And there was this 4x6 cut apart that had the plaid around the outside, and then it had a wood frame, and then like a quote, something in the middle. And I loved that, but my photo was not big enough to go into all of that. So I printed my photo 3x4 so that it would fit within that wood frame that's in the center of that. Put it on there, cut it off at the bottom, and then tucked that bottom piece up so that I could match the plaid up. And there I have a frame with the patterns that I wanted, but had to get just a little bit creative. So if you don't have as many papers as you'd like to play with and cut up, don't be afraid to make the paper work for you. My next thing was I have this other photo that's just of my husband. He's eating his barbecue and his root beer that our church provided for all the families on Father's Day. And so I wanted to mat it, and we had this paper that had the grills and the beef and all of that, which is very fitting for him and for the barbecue. I cut the papers a little bit bigger, and I cut them all basically the same size, but they're not going to stay like that. Like I said, I don't want it completely horizontal and vertical in the lines. I want it offset. But I wasn't for sure how big I wanted them, so I just started with all of the same sizes, and then I will trim down as I go. So I have that photo over there. Next were the 2 other vertical pieces that I needed, and I wanted some of the really pretty pattern paper. And I loved this red polka dot. It's kind of a barn red. And it ends up in the end, you don't even see it. I cover it up with the number 1 dad and then my journaling block. So I get that color in with my embellishments, but I love that pattern paper. But it's funny that it didn't make it to the final layout where you actually see it. And then the top, I needed another one, so I had the diagonal stripe. And I put it up over there, and then I'm going to start with my embellishing. Now that was pretty much all the pattern paper I had to choose from because the rest were cut-aparts. And I couldn't use cut-aparts on these 2 pieces because I couldn't cover up the designs in the center. Now if you were doing something and you had more photos or a bigger journal, like a 3x4 journaling card or something that you could put in the center, then those would work, and definitely think about doing that. The other thing is I love to layer on embellishments, so I didn't have quite enough that came in the kit that I wanted to use. So I went to my stash, and I have a little section that's called my guy section, and I just went through it for embellishments. I pulled out some cocoa vanilla sticker sheets that I had, and then this sticker sheet here was the key to the layout. This is by Pink Fresh. It's called Boys Fort, and it's puffy stickers. This was in a scrap room kit, I believe last year. I don't know. It's been a while. But it had the colors that were in this collection matched perfectly. So since I loved that kind of barn red, I was looking for something like that to pull it out into the layout. First thing I found was that Celebrate, which is perfect because we're celebrating Father's Day. And then I'm going to find a couple of more that say tough guy, and it's a guy thing. And as I'm doing this, I think the number 1 thing that I get started with is my photos and the design of the layout. So I kind of work that out, put those elements down, and then I go to my embellishments. And this was the main piece of embellishment that I was using was a sticker sheet. So the things I'm looking for are size and color, and I start placing them in a triangle so that I can have them in my embellishment cluster. So you'll see those three kind of barn red embellishments. That's where I'm going to start embellishing. And so then I go on there. I found a couple of little black pieces that I tucked in. I loved this little chipboard feather. It does not make it on the layout, but I tried. One other thing that I did was this little blue piece up here that says "You are one cool dad." I wanted this, again, not to look blocky, so I was looking for ways to pull it out of that block design, have things overhang the 4 blocks that I have in the design, and you'll see later on where I really pull it off the page, or off the what do I want to call it, those 4 design pieces, those 4 pattern papers. I really pull it out of that so that you're not just going, oh, that's a block, that's a block, that's a block, and that's a block. I want you to look overall at the photo and the journaling and then the little bits and pieces and the fun. So that "You are one cool dad" goes up at the top. It breaks that grid out just a little bit further, but it sinks into that dark background. So it's not like honking and in your face. I don't want it as prominent as the photos or the journaling or the main embellishments. I want it to just kind of sink to the background, and it does, but it's a wonderful design element that brings it in even more. So now you're going to see where I'm trimming down the papers just a little bit. This bottom card, I had this journaling spot that was left over for something. So I knew that was going to be the main piece down there. And I'm going to end up putting it towards the bottom and then trimming it up to it. This number 1 dad was part of the Best Dad Ever collection in the kit. And I loved it, and it brought in more colors, got that neutral brown and then the blues and then that pop of white. So I put it up at the top, the journaling block's going to go down below, and then that's going to decide my size for this block. Now that top left block's not going to be, I still can't go and measure this one and cut the top one to be the same size. It's going to be a little bit different too. So this is what I was saying. This was a really quick layout. I probably did it in 45 minutes. But the longest part was just testing. You know, I had to work on one part, had to work on the photos and kind of get those sizes, and then work on the other 2 squares and the embellishments and stuff to figure out what size I wanted those. So you're going to see here, this is where I'm kind of trying to figure out that offset. How much did I want showing? How big did it need to be? Because I need to cut that diagonal stripe down. So this is where I'm kind of deciding. And I didn't necessarily want it just completely straight across from the photo, but another way that I'm going to break that grid up is that tag. And I had a gray tag, and I loved it because it just kind of sunk down in the design, but it was boring, and I didn't want to pull out stamps or anything. And this one was a really light gray with that blue design at the bottom, so it was perfect. But it was a little bit bright. And so another little tip for you, like the Rad Dad you saw, it was pretty white too. I distressed with my Tim Holtz ink pad around all of the edges, but then also just lay those elements down and rub that applicator all the way across. Just keep it a really soft, light touch, rub it across, and you can distress and tone down all those whites where it just fits in so much better with the layout. So now I have all of those pieces, those background element pieces cut down to the size. I've adhered them, and now it's time to decide on the embellishments exactly where they're going. So again, here are those little barn red word phrases that I had. I found some black ones. So this one says superhero, and then on the right it was a round one that says rad and awesome. So the other thing I was looking for is, because since I have blocks of paper, blocks of words, I'm breaking it up with that Celebrate that has some dimension to it. Well, not dimension, some shape to it. And then the number 1 dad has the banner shape, and then the rad and awesome is a circle. But I still felt like it was blocky. It needed just a little bit of something. So I had these little cork banner pieces, and also has some arrows. And I decided to do it. So by tucking it up underneath this bulldog die cut up here, it breaks that grid, it pulls it off outside of that line, adds texture, adds another color where it's softer. It really draws your eye in. So think about that too. When you're looking at a layout and it's kind of getting boring, then look for those colors, textures, and shapes. That's the biggest thing I can tell you, is just to go to those three things and see if you're lacking something. So I put that banner up there to go underneath it, and then I'm going to take some of the little arrow pieces and I'm going to put it down at the bottom for my journaling in just a little bit. Then I also had these wood veneer. The kit came with this wood veneer button star, and I'm going to tie some jute around it. I used some of the jute that was part of the kit as well on the tag, so that's going to give me some more texture with that jute in those two places. Now I don't repeat it in the third cluster, but that's okay. You don't have to repeat in every cluster. And then having the cork in the bottom right, I didn't pull that over to the third cluster as well. I didn't feel like I needed. I had those two wood veneer stars. Those are really close in the design. I'm pulling the design, the shape, and the texture in the wood veneer and the cork. So I have 3 of those in each area of my design. So that's all I need. It's not like there's a cork in each one, but there's that cluster of them. The last thing I do is I had these clear stickers and they're navy blue stars. So again, like that navy blue word phrase up at the top, it just kind of sinks into the background. That's what these little star stickers are going to do. So I'm going to add those around into the clusters. I'm going to handwrite my journaling in. In the end, I don't know if it shows, but I do get some number stickers, the block stickers, and I add the year along with my journaling. You might see that at the end. At this point, I was really happy with the design, even though it was being a grid. It was something I really, really liked. It's a simple layout, a quick layout, but I think it has some great impact. Now, the one thing at this point I kept looking at, I loved the wood grain background, but I also felt like it needed a bit of framing. And I struggled back and forth whether just to leave it like this, but in the end, I end up cutting it down just a little bit, maybe 1/4 of an inch on 2 of the sides, and I mat it on some gray cardstock, and that really finishes it off. It pulls out that tag, the dad, and the rad dad, and all of that. It just really frames the layout, it finishes it off, and it really, really turns out great, I think. So I would love to hear about whether you do grid layouts. Do they bother you in any way? Do you tweak them like this? How do you do your grid layouts? And if you've shared them on social media, I would love for you to share the links in your comments down below, because I would like to check them out. Because this one encouraged me to try the grids a little bit more. So I'd love to see yours. If you're not subscribed, I would love to have you subscribe. Again, leave comments, thumbs up. That lets YouTube know that you're enjoying what I'm putting out there, and it'll be out there for other people to see. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you had a great holiday weekend, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.